Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Hello, Disruptors, and welcome back to another episode of Mindset Mastery Moments with yours truly, Dr. Alisa Whyte, and always here with a phenomenal guest. Today, we are going to be unlocking tools, strategies, and mindset shifts that help leaders thrive in life, career, and business. We have a guest who's going to shake the way you think about leadership, culture, growth inside organizations. If you've ever wondered how to build sustainable success without burning out your people, this conversation is for you. Our guest today joining me is Mr. Norman Wolfe, CEO of Quantum Leaders and a former executive at Hewlett Packard. Norman brings decades of experience in transforming organizations, creating resilient cultures, and guiding leaders to build workplaces that don't just perform, but truly thrive. Through his work, he's helped leaders and teams navigate massive change without sacrificing well-being or purpose. And you all know that is so important to Dr. Alisa. He's also the author of a book that's called The Living Organization, where he blends business strategies with the deeper principles of human and organizational energy. Norman, we are absolutely excited to have you here on the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just tell us in your own words who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, Alisa. It is a pleasure for me to be here, taking a Saturday afternoon to chat with you. Who am I? I'm a consultant. I have been consulting with organizations for over 35, 40 years now, since 1988. And my passion is to help organizations thrive, grow, create environments where the people of the organizations thrive and grow.
Yes.
That's why I wrote the book, The Living Organization. I just have come to believe that we are stuck in a paradigm which views organizations as machines to be programmed by the leader, setting the strategy, telling us what to do. And we employees sadly to say, from kindergarten on have learned to be good soldiers, right? They learn to be good employees, to look to the leader, to tell them what to do and how to do it. And that was great, 1900s, first part of the, century, when things were different than they are today. Employees weren't as educated as they are today. We coming out of an agrarian society into a modern corporation. But today, the world is changing so rapidly. People are much more educated than they were back then. And they want a sense of meaning and contribution in what they do. And our environments, just think about it. An organization is a black box. Inside that box, we convert inputs and produce outputs. And the leader designs how that black box is supposed to work and plugs in various components. And that component doesn't matter whether it's a person or a robot or artificial intelligence. It's just something that's going to get the work done. It's just a component.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I don't like being a component. I'm much more than
either.
I'm so much more than what I do and how I do it. Here's the thing. As I said, this model, this paradigm, this way of thinking has survived for over 100 years. But over the last 3-4 decades, as they've measured the success of organizations, the average statistics has been 70% of companies fail to execute their strategy.
No surprise there.
For only 27 to 30% of employees are engaged. That means 70% are disengaged. So you got 7 companies not achieving the strategy, 70% of companies or 70% of employees not being very engaged in what they do. And no matter what we've done in terms of systems, methods, models, education, leadership development, that number has not changed in over 4 decades. And I've worked with lots of leaders, and they are not stupid people.
No.
They are sharp, they're smart, they're very caring. And yet their behavior patterns and the behavior patterns of employees are preconditioned to think and act and respond to life a certain way based on this machine big black box kind of way I describe it.
Yes.
Leaders aren't happy. Companies aren't successful. Employees aren't happy. Something's got to change, right?
Something's got to change.
That's what I set out to do. That's what I tried to address. I began that in 2005 when somebody suggested I should write a book about some of my thinking, which led to the publication of the first book, The Living Organization, in 2011. And the second book, called Leading the Living Organization, is at the publishers now, waiting to be prepared for release sometime in 2026.
Yeah. Congratulations. You have to come back and talk to us about those principles as well. Yeah.
Absolutely will.
Norman, I love that your approach goes beyond those numbers. Really, I do. It means so much to me that you're out there, blazing the trail and working in that area, because that's something I'm also very passionate about, right?
I know.
Gets to the heart of what really makes an organization thrive, which is people. What was that turning point for you in moving from the corporate world into rethinking leadership this way?
Wow. I'd love to say there was a single point in time, but it's really decades of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I left Hewlett Packard after a wonderful 15-year career, learning about running organizations. I was blessed that my first year in management, my performance review was unacceptable in every category.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, what do you mean you were blessed? Well, it set the stage for me to really think about what does it mean to be a leader, and how does leaders become successful? And during my career at HP, for whatever reason, I ended up taking over organizations. For one, I was not technically competent in. What I mean by that is I came out of the systems engineering organization. My first management job was running the service district. I didn't know how to fix computers. I never fixed computers. But now I'm responsible for people fixing computers. Yeah. And when I got up to the region level, I took over an organization that took over the administrative organization. I didn't know anything, but I never managed the accounts receivable, accounts payable departments. I never managed service contracts. And I mean, the administration was not my area of expertise. And the second thing was I was taking over organizations that were underperforming or going through a major cultural shift. You can imagine that when looking at how I as a leader can be effective and looking at it from the point of view of I'm not a salesperson, I became a sales manager, so I can say do it this way. So this set me on the path of learning about the art and science of leadership and organization performance.
Yeah.
When I left HP and decided to start consulting, I did it mostly because, well, first I wanted to get out of the corporate world.
Yeah,
it was just one of 41. I was 41 years old, and call it a midlife crisis. I don't know, but I decided that I just had to change. And at the time, HP was changing as well. Not that I was prescient and saw where it was going, but it was just time for us to part ways. And so I went out and I decided, what do I have to offer? Well, I have 15 years of learning how to lead organizations. Maybe I can help organizational leaders who did not have the resource, the training, the opportunities I had at HP. Maybe I can bring some of my experience to them. And that's what I make consulting. After, like I said, 88, 98, 2005, 2002, so 10, 12, 15 years into consulting, I began to see certain patterns, the very patterns I mentioned to you about leaders who are struggling, who are feeling the burden of having to babysit their organizations almost. Employees who are committed to the organization but feel hemmed in by the way the organizations run. I just kept seeing these patterns over and over again. In 2002, actually, I was talking to one of my clients saying, why do you keep hiring me as a consultant? And he said, Norman, it's easy. You help me execute faster. And I go, oh, yeah, I guess that is my focus.
You didn't think about it.
I never thought about it. I mean, I was just out there helping people, meeting a CEO, meeting an organization leader, being invited to be the chairman of a nonprofit. I was just helping leaders be better at what they do.
Do.
And then in 2005, I was at a conference and met this woman. We were chatting. She asked me what I did. I said, well, I help organizations execute better. And she said, well, what makes you different than any other consultant? That's a question nobody should ask you. So I stopped and I thought, and the words that came out of my mouth was, I see an organization different than others. I see them as living entities with a soul and
Oh, mic drop.
And her comment was, you should write a book.
Absolutely.
The worst thing she could have ever said
She put
to
in
me.
your head.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
She planted the seed. I had absolutely no ambition to write a book. I never saw myself as an author. I struggled for 2 years trying to write the book. And then I found a guy who was going to help me and became sort of a writing consultant and guided me. And lo and behold, 5 years later, the book was published, and it changed my life. It put me on a mission and a path to transform the paradigm. I've come to passionately believe the only way we can achieve the goals we want for business and leaders and the employees within them is we have to fundamentally change that paradigm. We have to think of an organization not as a machine, but as a living person. And ask the question, how does a person create the outcomes they create? And use that to help organizations create the outcomes they want to create. That's my journey. That's how I got here.
I love it. I want you to repeat what you said to her when she said, what sets you apart? What was that again? Because that is so powerful.
I said, to me, organizations are living entities with a soul and a purpose for being.
Just let that marinate there. You know what I'm saying? That is like when you say it, it's like a breath of fresh air as a corporate leader, as a business professional. That paradigm is definitely there. And when you think through, I create photos in my head with the words. So I'm looking and I can feel the air. I can see the ease. I could see the unity, right? Even when there's competition, there's still unity, the accomplishments, the rough times, how they're getting through. I'm seeing these group of people just, for me, what would seem like utopia.
Well,
because again, I'm not seeing it work. Right? It feels like utopia because, I'm telling you, my interactions with corporate leaders, it's just seemed to be going downhill, and I empathize, and I would love to I'd love to walk in there and wave a magic wand, but there's no such thing, right? But the corporate culture is really and I'm talking to colleagues and friends and clients, and it's like their experience at work, they don't want to be there.
No.
They don't trust each other.
It doesn't matter whether it's an employee or a leader. Yeah. They're all feeling the tension and the pressure, and they're looking for some way out of the box.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, as I said, the book was published in 2011. A friend of mine said recently, who finally began, he was a CEO of a marketing agency. And he said to me, we were having lunch probably 8-9 months ago. And he said, Norman, I can see what you mean now. I met him actually when the book first came out. And he said, you were 10 years ahead of your time. And I said, yeah, no, it's been a long 10 years.
Yeah, because you did this so long ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a huge solution, I can tell.
The world is changing. Now's the time for it. I'm absolutely convinced we need it now.
More than ever. Yeah. Yeah. That's been my message to the world whenever I can and I talk a lot about self-leadership. Every time I'm talking to leaders, I'm asking you to go back in because life is a mirror. You're being mirrored. So whether you're the CEO, you're the middle manager, you're just, the floor manager, whatever that looks like, or you're an employee, how we show up as individuals. So I really can't come in here and wave a magic wand for your organization. I really need you to do some work on yourself, and you'll tell us about your method here in a little bit. When you talk about organizations as that living system, what do you mean by that really? And how does that shift the way leaders needed to show up?
That is Great question. I'm trying to consolidate it because it's both very complex.
It's three-part question if you ask me. It's loaded.
Yes.
But I got really excited about it. I just want to dive in. So you tackle it how you want to.
So you started to hint at one of the key things.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders create outcomes for their organizations by how they show up. But let me unpack that a little bit for you.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
First of all, the easiest way for leaders to understand the paradigm shift that I have found is a couple of things. One is think about any organization, any department within an organization, or for that matter, you can think of different organizations. But if you look at within an organization, a sales department versus a finance department, I asked you to describe those two departments to me. You would describe them in language that you would normally associate with a single person. For example, my sales department is outgoing, highly expressive. They got a lot of external energy. They're extroverted type people. My finance people, they tend to be very introverted or more introverted. That department tends to be focused on structure and process and keeping to the rules.
QSC, yeah.
You usually describe them in ways that you would describe a person.
It's true.
The reason I highlight that is because I have come to recognize, and there's lots of research that supports this, not in the realm of business, but in the realm of sociology and group dynamics. When a group of people come together as a single, as a collective, committed to a common purpose, they actually create an envelope around them that is itself a living person and operates as a person does. So why do I mention this? If I'm a leader and I have 5 or 6 departments that report to me, and each department has 10 or 20 people, that means I'm managing 7,500 people.
Yeah.
That feels overwhelming. What if I'm not managing 75 or 100 people? What if I'm only managing 5 individuals or 5 collectives that are a single person each? Now that's a little bit easier to work with. I'll give you an example of how that comes into play in a second. So the idea is for a leader to begin to get control of the very complex organizations by simplifying it. And one of the ways they can simplify it is to think of them as developing the capability and maturity of these 5 individuals that report to them. So you look at my sales department and I say, what is the capability and maturity? Why do I emphasize maturity? If you look at a machine, all you have to worry about is how the process flows through it.
Yes.
When you look at humans and their ability to make decisions, the decisions of machines are guided simply by the instruction set.
Yes,
whether it means a computer or a coffee pot, it doesn't matter. The design of the machine is its instruction set, and that's how it responds.
Yes.
You mentioned organizations as living systems. I say they are living people. Why? Living systems are also respond by an instruction set. They're genetic DNA, right? A tree is always going to be a tree. A maple tree is not going to be a birch tree or an apple tree, right?
Right.
They respond to life's events to be true to who they are. Humans are highly unique. We also respond by an instruction set.
Yes.
But it's an instruction set based on the stories we make up about our experiences and how to respond to those experiences to keep us safe and successful. So we are fundamentally creating our own instruction set through our life. We call that the context.
Yes, context.
So
Perceptions.
now let's begin to apply this, and then I'm going to give you a concrete example. We, as a leader, we're going along, well, let's say as an organization, we're going along and we're producing and we're doing pretty well, and then things happen, the market changes, tariffs hit us, whatever hits us, right? Whatever changes in the environment, we recognize we're going to have to change what we're doing. Put that simply, we create a new strategy. Simply put, what we're looking for is we're producing this level of outcome or these types of outcomes, and now we want to produce a different type of outcome. we all know that if we do the same behaviors over and over again, we're going to and expect a different outcome. That's insanity, right? That's the classic statement. So we know we have to change behaviors. But remember what I said, our behaviors are natural responses to life events based on previous experiences.
Right.
So our context is going to drive our behaviors.
Yes.
If I want new outcomes, I have to change my behaviors, but need new behaviors, we have to change the fundamental context.
Yes.
Context for an organization is developed out of our years of experience. We've learned collectively how to behave in response to competitors, in response to sales situations, and in response to supplier challenges. We know how to behave. We know how to respond to these things. So our context, like the machine code and the instruction set, has been developed over years. So now I want to change the direction of the organization. I literally have to change all of those context beliefs. Otherwise, we're going to still automatically, unconsciously respond to the markets, respond to the suppliers, respond to other employees, other departments, the way we always have. Now I'm going to give you a concrete example. One of my clients is in the grain export business. In the grain export business, the commodity function is primarily a arbitrage situation, and they have a department called merchandising. They're the ones that buy grain at one price and sell it at another price. So they're the ones negotiating the contracts.
Yeah.
They get grains from various different suppliers. They get it from large agricultural companies like Cargill or what have you. They also get it directly from the farmers. This particular organization has what they call country operations. And the country operations were just focused around taking in the product and shipping it to the export terminal to be shipped out to the customer. So they were just operationally focused. The sales activity, if you will, and the revenue generating and the profit generating entity were the merchants. CEO goes, that's not going to work for us in the future. We're constantly squeezed on margin. We're competing with everybody else at the same price. We got to do something different. We've got this unique capability. We have all these country operations out there that are very close to the farmer. When we buy from the farmer, we get a higher margin because we're not paying farmer to Cargill. We get farmer to us, to customer. That improves our margin. We want to shift our strategy to go get more direct from the farmer than we do other places. We can do that by increasing our relationships with the farmer. And rather than paying just on price, we're paying on the experience that we can create a positive experience we can create for the farmer, either by being close to them, by helping them during tough times, by basically taking care of the farmer, going from a commodity business to a solution and experience business.
Yes.
That's the strategy. It's great.
I love it.
Except here's the problem.
It. Wow.
The merchants are used to operating a certain way, and the country operations are used to operating a certain way.
Right.
I was sitting down with the CEO, and he was struggling with, how do I make the shift? How do I get my merchants to behave this way? How do I get this guy in this facility and this guy in that facility? And it was just overwhelming him. And I said, look, you only have two people you have to worry about. He goes, what do you mean? I said, you've got your merchants. Let's call them merch. Give them a name.
Merch.
And you got your country operations, let's call them CT. So you got CT and merch.
I got merch.
How do you want CT to behave? How do you want merch to behave? How do you want them to interact with each other given what they're doing now? Once he got that picture laid out, he was able to start shifting the behaviors of each of those departments collectively, not at each individual problem level, and this one behaved this way. He was able to communicate a context that allowed people to begin to shift and change their context. That's the power and simplicity of applying the living organization framework.
Love it. Ooh, it's so powerful. That is, we could say end of the episode, because that anyone's listening to us and they take that mindset shift or that paradigm, it can change so much in how their organization flows and operates.
And that's
Powerful.
just the beginning. That's just the beginning.
I know. I have to say, it's just, yeah.
Let me give you another. One of the desires of every CEO is to take a sense of ownership for the success of the whole.
Yes.
Why does it always come to me? Can't they come to me? Instead of bringing me the problem, why don't they bring me a solution? That's the classical way. That's the way we hear it. But what they're really saying is, why can't these people make the decisions? Why am I always the one having to make every decision for them? Here's the problem they're facing. As I mentioned, people have been trained for the industrial age since the 1920s, starting in public school. They're trained to obey the teacher. The teacher will give you your assignment, and your job is to fulfill the assignment. You go into the university these days, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Here's the assignment. Your job is to fulfill the assignment. You go for your doctoral thesis. Here's what I'd like to do. No, you can't do that. You got to write. Here's your thesis, right? You got to get approval. You got to fulfill the need of the
instructor or the professor. Yeah.
You go out to work, and what happens? Well, you look for the boss to tell you what needs to be done, and you do your best to fulfill that. So if you think about it, the way the system works is I, as a boss, have to figure out what I want my people to do. Makes sense when you're designing the machine. You want to tell each component what they need to do. So I come to you, I tell you what you need to do, and then you perform it. And then at the end of the performance, I come to you and I tell you how you did. And then we sort of have this wonderful game we play where you're trying to explain to me why either I didn't do a good job explaining what you should have been doing, or why you couldn't do what you did because you didn't have the right resources or whatever, right? Because we're in this, I'm judging you and you got to defend yourself. That's the game we're playing. So this is sort of like, I'm a parent and I want my child to grow up. And every time the child has to get something done, it's easy for me to tell them what to do. They get sort of used to that pattern. They're now 35 years old, living in my basement, and I'm saying, why can't they grow up? It sounds silly, but it's the exact same.
It's so true. It's like you cannot, once I saw it, I cannot see it. What you said, it's like that is exactly how it trickles down. It comes all the way. We were programmed this way.
We're programmed for that. In the living organization framework, we turn that around. Our job is to develop the maturity, just like we want our kids to be mature so they can be self-sustaining. If you think of an organization as a person, then it's obvious you want this person to grow up, not only in capability, the skills it has, but in terms of maturity, so it can make decisions on its own.
Yes.
And since it's part of a collective, since it's part of a community, you want them to be able to make decisions on their own for the good of the whole.
Yes.
It's like in the family, you want your kids to make decisions that's good for them and the family, right?
Exactly.
As they continue to grow. So what we do is we change that whole performance management dynamic, and we call them contribution agreements. And it goes like this.
I love that.
You, as a human being, as a member of this organization, you have a lot of skills and talents, and you know a lot, probably a lot more than I do about your particular area of expertise. So here's what I'd like you to, here's what I need for the organization. This is what the strategy, these are the objectives, these are the goals. And I come to you and I say, look, how are you going to contribute to that? I'm not going to tell you how you should do that.
Very different.
We just need this to happen. You're talented. You're great. Tell me how you're going to contribute. And then how are we going to know when you're successful?
Right.
Then you perform.
Reporting.
Now, I want you to learn how to make decisions on your own. So when you perform, you're going to make mistakes, right?
Yes.
Especially if you're doing something you've never done before. If you don't make mistakes, you're never going to learn, right? So it's unusual to do something for the first time and get it right. But some people do once in a while. But most of the time, you're going to make mistakes. So I, as a leader, want to shift from being the designer of the machine to a coach and developer of the people, both capability and maturity. And we do that through the contribution agreements. You're going to tell me how you're going to contribute. We're going to negotiate that, right? Because you may have some really wild ideas, and my experience says, probably not going to happen that way. But let's talk about it. If you can convince me, I'll let you do it.
Yeah.
So we'll have a coaching conversation at the front end.
Right. Exactly.
And then we're going to have a coaching conversation at the back end to talk, how did you do? What did you learn? What mistakes did you make? What did you learn from those mistakes? And this has to do with not only your getting things done, but your relationship skills, your thinking skills, your critical thinking. Are you thinking in terms of the whole system or just your small part? So we're coaching them on a whole range of what we call maturity issues.
Love it.
Now think about, after a couple of years of doing that, what happens to the employee and what happens to the CEO? The employee is feeling much more empowered.
Yes.
They're feeling a greater sense of contribution. And the leaders are having a much easier job. They can think more about the future, knowing that the organization of today is being taken care of.
Absolutely.
And that's what everybody really wants, and that's the path to get there.
Wow. Wow. So powerful.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. You have thought it through methodically, and it's so applicable, and it's also very simple at the same time, is what I love about it. Very simple.
Thank you. Yes, that's a friend of mine once said, well, actually, I forgot exactly who said it. I think it was Einstein. Creating simplicity on the other side of complexity is really the goal that we will shoot for, right? And,
exactly.
And that's what I've tried to do, is take something very complex and try to not simplify it, but achieve that going through it to the other side where it's really simple by seeing it differently.
Absolutely.
Changing the paradigm. Changing the paradigm changes everything.
Changes everything. You have to. Yeah. One of the things you work in the area a lot is sustainable growth, and you have a specialty with driving growth without burnout. And that's a big issue. Like we hinted on it a little bit earlier about so many people experiencing burnout. In this world where burnout is everywhere, how can leaders practically start to create growth that's actually sustainable with your method?
It actually becomes, how do I want to say, becomes a natural byproduct of leading through the way I mentioned. And why is that? When you begin to recognize, for example, the level of capability and maturity of the organization, remember, I'm always using those two pieces together. Maturity and capability combined defines the capacity of the organization to perform and to grow. So the reason I burn people out is I'm driving them to do more beyond their capability and maturity to do it. Right? Because otherwise I'm not burning out.
Right.
I'm demanding more than they're capable of giving. I'll give you another example. I learned this with a client. It was a bizarre situation. The owner founder of a company, and I'm not going to name the company because it's a fairly well-known brand. It's in the beverages industry. The owner died at the age of 92 at his desk.
Man.
The owner was a typical owner, founder, passionate about his particular product and what they stood for. I mean, he just absolutely loved it, and people loved him for it. And he had a following of his employees. But he was also what you might call a capricious, beneficial dictator, or benevolent dictator. I mean, he controlled everything. And he loved his people, but sometimes he'd fire you, and when you're walking out, he says, "Where are you going?" I mean, it was a really odd culture that he created. But people loved him, and they were committed to him. Because underneath all the harshness, you might say, was a very loving heart, and they knew that. He'd take care of them, he was loyal to them. He passed away. The board brought on a very experienced leader from a major beverage company. And in that company, they believed in management by objective and empowering the employees. So he said, I'm going to allow you to make decisions on your own, and I'm going to empower you. And we're going to manage by objective. Here's my objective, you figure it out. Now you're taking people who for years have been told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Having to think about it is very scary. I was brought in
They starting a
because
whole new job.
his executive team was so under stress, they were burning out. He was literally killing them. There was stress, there was illnesses, but he was empowering them. He was managing by objective. It was a mismatch. They weren't mature enough yet to do that. The board ended up replacing him. He recognized, and they elevated the gentleman who was the chief operating officer. Well, actually, they brought in somebody as the chief operating officer, and then they elevated him to be the CEO. His approach was fundamentally different. He eased them into, he coached them, he helped them begin to make decisions on their own. And then within 2 years, they were able to grow much faster.
Yes.
So he used our methodology to help develop the capability and maturity of his staff rather than burning them out because of demand. And remember, the first CEO was burning them out because he was empowering them before they were ready to be empowered.
Yes. See, it can go both ways.
It absolutely can. So we come up with these ideas of empower your people, set the purpose, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we don't take into account at what level are they capable of being independent. We implement things like holacracy, self-managed, self-organizing group. We don't take into account the concept of maturity.
Wow. I love it.
That's why we burn people out, and that's why the living organization.
Yes, that approach changes everything.
Changes everything.
Yeah.
Things that were hard and difficult and almost impossible in the old paradigm are absolutely easy and just sort of a matter of course in the new paradigm. They just come simple.
Yes.
Changing the paradigm is not easy. I'm not going to, it's not going
to. It is definitely a battle at times, and it's honing in, having that right, the blueprint, having a blueprint. And a team that's rallied around that shared goal. Yeah, putting it in consistently.
And then you got to practice it. You got to become self-aware, like you said at the very beginning. That's the key. Leaders have to become self-aware and help their employees become self-aware and self-reflective, so they can catch themselves in the act of thinking in the old way, stopping and rethinking.
I agree. I see. That's what it always starts with, the mindset.
It always starts with the mindset.
How do leaders balance urgency, performance with humanity and care for their people? Because I feel like a lot of leaders, I remember I worked for an organization and the CEO was handing out books on stoicism for everybody, all the department heads. We all got books, every member of the executive board. All of us got a book on stoicism, and it's wonderful. I guess I saw the intent. That was some years ago. And I was like, if you think we all going to read a book and this organization is going to change, you need someone to come in and work with us. So help us apply what we read in the book. And that would help. How about we even if we just got in a circle, sang kumbaya, and then read the book together and share our thoughts, not even better than just hoping that they would read the book. So how do leaders balance urgency, performance with that humanity piece and showing that they care for their people?
And that I have to acknowledge that is a tough one. That is a balancing act. Here's the way I've come to help leaders through that balancing act. And I want to be careful not to imply it's one size fits all. So I'm going to talk about some of the downside of it, or when it is appropriate and when it's not appropriate. Because urgency is something that we have to really recognize.
Right.
The basic shift within the living organization paradigm is we go from using people to create results to using the results to serve as the catalyst to develop the people.
Wow, that's different.
Which again, a shift in the way we're doing the same thing. It's just a shift in the mindset, the shift in the way we reframe it.
Right.
The reason we're doing that is goals are extremely important for any organization, or for that matter, any human being.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because it gives us directionality. It tells us what we're trying to accomplish. And so we need that. When I am just a component part being used to create the results, that's the message I get. I'm going to burn out, I'm going to feel unimportant, I'm just being used.
Mm-hmm.
But when we focus as a leader on using the results as the vehicle to develop the capability and maturity of the people, I'm creating, if you think about it, a virtuous cycle.
Yes.
My goals, they're going to challenge my people. I'm going to use that challenge to catalyze the development in terms of maturity and capability. That's going to increase our capacity. We're going to be able to achieve bigger goals, which are going to challenge my people. So think of it as a spiral that's ever increasing. That's what we're trying to achieve. That takes time. Coaching people takes more time than directing people. Coaching my kids, helping them grow and learn from their experience, takes more time than telling them what to do. But there's a trade. There's a trade-off. Sometimes I am going to tell my kids what to do because it's too dangerous.
You don't have room for error.
We don't have room for error. It's absolutely critical. We tell them what to do. But we don't want to leave it there. We want to come back and help them learn why we did that, so they begin to expand their capability to do it on their own the next time.
Right.
So the sense of urgency is a critical part. One of the programs we teach is, we call it Leader as Coach-Sultant, the combination of being a coach and a consultant simultaneously. And the reason we do that is because there are times when a leader must be directive, must be the consultant telling the organization what needs to be done. There are other times when the leader wants to be the coach and focus on the development. So we teach them when to be a coach, when to be a consultant, and it all has to do with the sense of urgency. And I love, the best example I like, it used to be involved in turnarounds. And the metaphor I use is turnarounds is like the emergency room in a hospital. You got to save the patient. You don't care about its diet. You don't care about its weight. You don't care about whether it's got the right mental attitude for the future. None of that matters when you're in the emergency room. You're just going to triage it and get the person fixed, so that you can move into those other conversations. That's a good metaphor. So in a turnaround, when things are truly urgent, take action, decide, tell the organization what to do, and expect them to step up. If you do that when it's truly an emergency or when it's truly urgent, people will step up because they know it's not forever. And they know it's in the context of an environment where they're going to learn and grow and enhance their capability and maturity so they can contribute more. Look, everybody wants to have a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging and a sense of contribution and a sense of learning and growing. Everybody wants that.
Those are basic needs, yes.
And so if I create the environment as a leader where that's the foundation of what we're trying to accomplish, I'm going to get a lot more. I won't be burning out my people because I won't be asking things. I'll be able to evaluate where they are on the spectrum. I'll be able to delegate to the level that enhances their ability to do more.
Yes.
And it's a win-win for everybody. The leader's happy. The employees are happy. I can address the urgency when I need to without burning people out. Yeah, again, it's, if you think about it as developing a parent helping their children grow up and become more mature, just frame it that way and you'll begin to see the power of the living organization framework.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Change is absolutely constant, and even taking on this paradigm is going to create a change as well, right? And so we also know that changes also can be chaotic.
By definition.
Right? What are some of those key mindset shifts leaders need to adapt to be able to help their organization not just survive, but thrive through change?
It's a great question. And in our model, in our framework, and in our trainings, I really looked at that. I was actually very blessed. My wife is an artist, and she spent over 20 years as an improvisation performer and director in a improv model or method called playback theater. It's a improv theater model. It's not comedy improv, but it is improvisation.
Wow.
And as I've watched her and watched the improv world and learned about how they train people, I began to realize that's exactly what leaders and people need. Think about what an improviser does. They are taking an action within the domain of complete uncertainty. They have learned how to act in a way that consistently gets the story told, lets the dance unfold, or plays the musical number in a jazz band. They know how to do something without knowing the script or the score or the not painting within a predefined art structure, right? Yeah. They're responding to life in the moment with the confidence of how to act and how to respond to what comes next. So it's a offer, response, offer, response, offer, response. That's what they call it in the improv world. But that's the way to live life, and that's the way to manage organizations. When you get comfortable with uncertainty, change is not so scary. Change is just, like you said, it's just the next thing.
Yeah.
It's just the next thing that life shows up.
Right.
And you're able to respond to it because you've learned how to improvise through life. The funny thing is we do it all the time. When you walk into a grocery store and you meet somebody or you're talking to the cash register, you didn't go in and say, oh, my script is I say this and they say that. We go in the grocery store and we improvise. We meet somebody in the coffee shop and we say, oh, and they say something and then we respond to them. We are improvising all the time. So the idea of being an improviser is really not that unfamiliar. It's just never applied in producing outcomes. And we should.
And we should, exactly. It's again, it goes back to that perception, right? Of how we're thinking and seeing. Yeah.
Everything starts with mindset. I mean, that mindset creates our reality.
It does. It does. And I mean, it's so much more. I mean, it sounds cliche to people because it's said so often, but it really does. It's one of the most underestimated conscious awarenesses. Like we become so consciously aware of it, where we put it into action and we really process it through, and we create these paradigms and our own toolbox of things that will help us build on the mindset that really, I say, put your mind in the direction you say you want to go. Because here's the thing. Everybody comes into work and say, I don't want to be burned out. I don't want to be a failed leader. I don't want to be the supervisor that everyone hates. I don't want to be the coworker that people think are lazy. I want to win. I want to do this job. I want to get my paycheck. Not everybody says that, but let's just say everybody goes to work and they say they want to get a paycheck. So no one wants to get fired. No one wants to get laid off. No one wants to get a pay cut. No one wants that. I can say that across the board. I haven't met anyone who, right?
But yeah, I'm going to come to work. I want you to fire me this morning.
Right? Unless you got another job lined up, right? And you have income. Yeah, right. You won the lottery. You're not saying that. So let's say I can say that, and no one can shoot me and say, "Oh, Lisa, well, not everybody wants to be successful. Some of us just want to get our paycheck." All right, let's go with the basics, right? So that's where you want to end up. You want to, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the pay period, you want to get a paycheck, right? That's where, let's say that's your destination. That's everybody's destination. You got to put these things in place to be able to get there. And we're saying it begins with how you think and how you see things, and then being intentional about putting action. This is why I say think, speak, do, become. Putting action behind those that are strategic to get the results you say you want. And let's face it, everyone at your current job can agree on that. That's what the CEO wants to make money and make impact and be the top performing company or whatever. So you've been in those boardrooms. You've been in crisis rooms, Norman. What's one practical step you would say to leaders, whether they're in a management role or not, that they can take tomorrow to begin building resilience into their culture?
Well, I'm going to come back to the thing you said at the very beginning. I think self-awareness. Start looking at who you are. I think you said it or you implied it, at least I heard it in what you said. Your organization as a leader is a mirror to who you are.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if you look at your organization and you complain about this or that, or the organization isn't doing this thing, or whatever your concern is about your organization, it starts with you as a leader.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. I mean, if you think about it, Your organization's giving you feedback all the time on how to be a better leader. They're telling you what it's like your kids. I'm telling you. I remember most of my lessons from my daughter who didn't say the word. Well, actually, as she got older, she used to say the word, "Daddy, you're doing annoying. Stop it."
Right.
But even in her behaviors, that she's reflecting back, and it's like she's doing this because I'm doing this. We're in this dance together. Well, organizations are the same way. Your people are in a dance with you, and they are reflecting back and behaving because
you're
of what
showing
you're
them.
doing. Become self-aware. Use your organization as a mirror to help let you see who you are as a leader.
That's
and
right.
then adjust accordingly. And that would be the most practical thing, simplest thing.
Yes.
Simplest thing to be told, hardest thing to do.
Right. Because now that's where, and that's where, consultants and organizations like yours comes in. Because let's face it, there are organizations that pay thousands and thousands of dollars to bring consultants and change makers and coaches and all these things in, but they have not done that first step that you just did,
Absolutely.
which is this thing. I tell people the word leadership doesn't have ship in it for no reason. Leader first, that's you. The ship are the people you're riding with, but you are the captain as the leader. So if you decide we're going west windward, or wherever you decide, that's where this thing is going to go. So first lead yourself, as John Maxwell says, and take ownership. I say, John Maxwell said leadership is influence. I agree with that. But leadership for me first is ownership, because that ownership is how you influence. The lack thereof, or you have ownership in this area, but you don't in this area, the lack thereof is how you'll influence your people. But when you take ownership, the influence becomes where you now create opportunity. And that's the ship. Opportunity for growth, opportunity for success, opportunity for failure, whatever it is, however you influence is where that opportunity, those are the kinds of opportunities you're creating, and that, you can tell how it's going to go from there.
All of my clients, you're right. The greatest gift I can give my clients is the ability for them to see themselves and see how they're thinking and believing and behaving is creating how the people are behaving. And when they begin to see that, they go, and they make a small adjustment. It doesn't take a lot, a small adjustment. And all of a sudden, the things they were concerned about goes away. And it's not like, it's an interesting dynamic, and we probably don't have time to go all into that. So I'd just like to leave that idea with them. I'll sum it up this way. One of my clients came to me and he said, Norman, I was talking with my wife this week, and she said something very interesting. She said, ever since I've been working with you, I've become a better husband. That his way of listening, his way of communicating, which I helped him do for his organization, changed the way he related to his wife. His wife began to appreciate him. Life. We talk about work-life balance. I think that's the silliest thing. Who I am.
Me too.
And life.
Come on. Yes.
Who I am, and where is work and where is life? How is the work not
it's like you're a split person. Half of you go to work and the other half stay at home. Or like you switched, you go into this transformation chamber and you become the worker. And then before you leave, you go into a transformation chamber and you become the person who's the dad. No, I see. There's this silly,
you can't do
silly, yeah. There's
silly
theories.
I was a very young engineer, just starting, just maybe 4 or 5 months out of university, working at Pratt & Whitney Aircraft, and our senior engineer, the lead of the group, said to me one day, Norman, when you come to work, you leave your personal life at the door.
Silly.
And I literally stopped and I said, that's interesting. Which part of me do I leave at the door? How do I do that?
I guess you're going to leave your subconscious. Do
I open my brain? Do I split? I couldn't.
Go ahead and slice.
It literally did not make any sense to me. But over the years, I realized that that's an underlying pattern we have.
That's the machine.
Work,
That's making people the
that's
machine.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Work is work and life is life, and they're not to be mixed. And we're
What an
struggling to bring
illusion.
balance. And the reason we can't bring balance is because we established the question the wrong way. We can't find an answer if we don't restate the question. And so, yeah, that's the problem with the old paradigm.
Yeah, if you want to be a CEO, a manager, or leader that lives under that illusion, go for it. You're forever going to be on it. And I tell people, your company might be making a 50% profit, but guess what? You might be able to make 80% if you just change that one thought process that your employees really have something called work-life balance. I don't even like the word balance anymore. I go for harmony, because the thing I've been able in my journey to have staff that my call out rates were at like 2%. And even then we didn't have chaos on our campuses for schools. And that is because all my teachers, everybody in every department, the cleaning crew, the chef, and her staff in the kitchen and the cafeteria, they were all people. And I did this when I did not study leadership. I didn't have my degrees, but I just knew that they were people. And so when I had a staff who was struggling in her marriage, and I might not have the details, but there's hints or maybe there's gossip, I say, hey, how can I support you?
That's right.
You usually, now I realize that your husband has moved out and you have to drop all the kids to school before you get here. I can't have you on my early morning shift.
Right. I mean, that's right.
And for me to tell you to figure it out, like I'm just giving you the operation keys of my organization. Yeah. And so for me, the compassion and ultimately for the success of the organization is to say, I'm going to have to adjust. So how about, Jane, you come in for the 8:00 shift. So before I even do that, I'm like, is there anyone who's on the 8:00 shift? Anybody wants to make a change? I like my early shift because I come in early. I get to leave early. So nobody wants to make a change. So, you can look at that as a problem, or you're like, okay, instead of thinking it's a problem, like, how can I adjust this? So no one wants to leave the early shift. All right. And I don't want to ruffle their crew if I don't have to either. And then I'm like, all right, so what do I do here? I'm thinking it through, because before I don't want to move things around and affect everybody if I don't have to. Right. I can force them and say, one of y'all got to go and you do it. I'm like, how about if each of you took turns per week working the 8:00 shift so that she can come, and say, taking the early shift. So me saying that, they loved it because they're like, oh yeah, I get to get an extra hour in the morning. I can do some other things before I come in. And they're like, that's so innovative. Next thing you know, instead of everyone holding a shift for the eternity of their time, we created a system, because now all team members are sitting here, where we had a shift system where we were rotating shifts. So everyone got somewhere between the 7, the 8, and the 9, and they enjoyed having it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they start over, because they got to do. People would, instead of taking time off later in the day, the ones who did 9, they were already able to go do their blood work. They were able to go have a parent conference early in the morning, and just her problem became a solution for things we didn't even know were problems.
That's right. That's right. And now imagine if you did that, and you did a really good job of trying to figure out a solution that might work for everybody. Imagine if you had that same situation and you just turned over to everybody and say, hey, this fellow worker of ours is struggling. How can we find a solution, and let them figure that out on their own?
That's literally what I did. I did it with the small group of early people. Beautiful. And then when we got that, where we now shift all our entire team, it was us strategizing now. Them seeing, and again, as a leader, my first go-to is and even if I'm leading for 1 hour, if I get in a conference room or I'm going to do a talk in an organization or a training, I say, first of all, let's understand. I know some things about some things. You know some things about some things. If we put all those things together, we're going to walk out here supercharged, the best we can get, because if you have, I have this mouse right here. I can't put one battery in here and it works. I got to put two, and they each got to be in the right direction for me to get this mouse working, or it's not working. So when we come together, people lack, and like ultimately, I was consulting with one of my clients, and she's like, she got this email from her manager, says, "Oh, I made an executive decision. And ultimately, I do get the opportunity to make executive decisions." Well, go ahead and make those executive decisions then. That's why you have chaos.
Yeah, right, exactly right.
The best executive decisions I've made is when I made it with my team.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Now they all have buy-in and they all have ownership for what we made a decision about.
It goes back to the notion of the contribution agreements. If you allow them to decide themselves what that contribution is going to be to whatever situation we're faced with, they're going to tend to be, it's their decision, so they're going to own it, right? What you described is absolutely inherent. And the funny thing about the living organization framework, it's really just an amalgamation of what I've observed people like you, like your story. I just codified it. I looked at all the little pieces that make it up and make it work and put it into a framework that people understand. How do we think? What skills do we need as a leader, like learning to have improvisation mindset, learning how to reframe context, since context is the driving force, learning to have loving, caring, compassionate conversations with people.
Yes.
Those are key skill sets. If you're going to think of it as something, you're going to think of it as a person, not a machine, then you got to lead it with a different set of skills. And so I put all those pieces together, and that's what I call the living organization framework. But
I love it.
It's a comprehensive way of thinking about leading an organization that shifts the paradigm, which, as we've been talking about, shifts everything.
It does. And we're getting close. I just know that what I find is, we talk about the golden rule, treating people how we would want to be treated. And I'm like, I don't know that we want to do that, because for all the things you said at the beginning of our conversation, that we are programmed already to look for answers, to look to answers. So that's what we know. So we come in, when we are put in the leadership position, we are already pre-programmed that as a leader, I have to also be a machine. I have to also have all the answer. I have to be that person that I saw in kindergarten, elementary, high school, and the list goes on. So because of that, when I can't tell you, how do you want to be treated? No, because your concept is already skewed. Right? So we have to really make this shift to understand the paradigm that you're sharing with us, is that if you are first a human, Alisa, and your husband and you are separated, and you now have to get all the kids to school, what would help you function and show up to this job and do a good job? What would you need? Because I can't leave it at home. I got to take care of home before I get to work. I can't do my work that I do at home at work. That's all we can say to humans. But if it's chaos and all chaos and I'm rushing and I'm frantic, I come in frantic. I might get on a call with a customer and I'm short with them, and then I snap and I blow up at the supervisor and I'm typing nasty emails. Still haven't said a thing about what's happening at home. No one knows, but all that stress and drama came with me.
Up. Of course, because you can't leave it at the door. It's impossible. No matter what anybody tells you to do, it's impossible.
Oh my God, then you're going to have to bump everybody off. That's just wild. Here's it. I have to ask you, Mr. Norman, who do you serve and how do you serve them? I know there are quite a few leaders listening to us, and they're like, I want to get a hold of this. Of course, we want you to get the book. I'm definitely going to have both the ebook and the actual physical book. I'm going to get my copy because I feel like it's a manual. There's some books that I just call a manual. Yeah. And you want to have it like a tool, like you go to, like, I mean, I'm a Bible reading girl, and my Bible has highlights, and I have another Bible that looks clean so I can go to church with it, and it's not, and it doesn't look wild and crazy and tattered, but I treat my books as the same. They're just like the Bible. They have truths and life that comes out of it. Yeah, so tell us, who do you serve and how you serve them?
I work with CEOs of companies in the, say, 25 million to 500 million range. Generally speaking, they're in that, some people call it small, medium-sized businesses domain. And I work with them my passion is helping organizations, as I said at the beginning, help them execute more effectively. I look at that as, where are you now? Where do you want to go? How are we going to get you there? And it's not just putting plans in place. It's how we're going to get you there and still increase the capacity of your organization to do more. So when you get there, you can go to the next one easier than the first time. Now, if you look at developing people, if you look at the goal achievement as a vehicle for developing the people, what you're really doing is setting the stage to go. The first time you try to go from here to here in the new paradigm, it's going to be difficult. But once I get there, I've developed a whole bunch of skills. Going to the next one's going to be easier. And then easier, and then easier, and then faster.
You have that
faster,
solid foundation.
Yeah. So that's what I do with organizations. I work with the leaders and usually the CEO, the executive team together. We train them on thinking, on the new way of thinking. We train them on the new way of leading, which facilitates helping them create results in a new way.
Yeah,
that's what we do. And it's usually with leaders of organizations in that small to medium-sized business.
So do you have a team of individuals, and do you train individuals on living?
I do. As a matter of fact, I started that 2 years ago, and I've trained over the last 18 months 10 people, and I'm training 2 more. So yes, I'm building a community. It's interesting because they're all independent consultants who, like me, believe it's time to change the paradigm.
Yes.
It's absolutely necessary. And they believe that the living organization framework is the right framework for the next generation, for the next century.
I believe that too. That's why I asked. I didn't ask for any of y'all listening or watching. I asked for myself because I want this tool in my toolbox of my consulting services that I offer, and maybe some of the other people on my team. So I know for me, I want it in my toolbox.
Well, I'd love to have you part of our community. As a matter of fact, I'm starting another training cohort in a week and a half, and you're welcome. We can talk offline.
Awesome.
You're welcome to be part of that. I'd love to have you. I think it'd be great.
Yes, because it's so needed. There's so many people coming, and I think a lot of, like, I have methods and things that I use, but you already built a system that's tested and tried, and there's no guesswork in it, right? And for me, I'm again, those are the things that should be systems.
Well, and again, shifting the paradigm is not easy, so that's why I built a community.
Right.
We have to help each other in the way we think, and the way we approach, and the way we respond. I tell you, honestly, for most of the consultants I've trained, they've all experienced personal life transformations. It's not set up to be
on our own journey.
It has not been set up to be a personal transformation enterprise. But look, when you shift the paradigm to help other customers, to help work with CEOs, you yourself are changing, and it's inevitable. So it's really a powerful training.
It is. I can only imagine. I'm definitely going to be connecting with you to get that information. If you'd like, we'd love to share it here in the podcast. So tell us how we can connect with you, your favorite way. And of course, Disruptors, we're going to have it in the link in the description, wherever you're listening and watching this.
Yeah. So 2 easiest ways, or 3 ways. One is you can go to my website, www.quantumleaders.com. There's a contact sheet. You can just fill that out. You can download our white paper, get in touch with me, set up an appointment on my calendar, and that's easy. You can email me at nwolfe@quantumleaders.com, and we can set up a meeting right off the bat. Or my LinkedIn profile. I have my assistant constantly monitoring my messages, and
that's good.
Yeah, so those are the 3 best ways: my LinkedIn profile, a direct email, or through my website.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. This has been such an empowering episode. Norman, thank you so much for joining us today. You've given us such powerful perspective on how leaders can really create sustainable growth, build resilient cultures, and also lead with humanity in times of rapid change we're experiencing right now. To everyone listening, make sure you check out Norman's work at www.quantumleaders.com. It's there in the description. I'll drop the link and everything else that he has for you to get a hold of him there as well. Until next time, keep mastering your mindsets. Think, speak, do, become. Thank you for joining Norman and I today, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear the message. Bye now.